2024 was a wild year for the whole gaming community on Linux. On the one hand, the number of verified and playable titles skyrocketed above 17,000. Can you imagine that? 17,000! Almost every major single-player title released on PC this year was playable on Linux since day one. I'm talking about games like Punisher's Ghost of Eden, Dragon's Dogma 2, Space Marine 2, Ghost of Tsushima and Red Dead Redemption. This year I've also spent an enormous amount of time playing indie games like the Thaumaturge, Rogue of Prince Persia and the new Vanya DLC for the Songs of Conquest that I'm enjoying right now. But on the other hand, in 2024, plenty of huge multiplayer games revoked their Linux support because of an anti-cheat update. So today I'm going to share with you my own experience of gaming on Linux and talk about the unique position on the market that Linux can offer to the average gamer. So let's get started. 17,000 is quite an impressive number, but it rather represents quantity, not quality. To get a better understanding of what you might expect switching to Linux, let's take a closer look at the Game Awards ceremony. Last year, of all the Game Awards nominees that has been released on Steam, 80% were either listed as Steam Deck verified or playable, or have been rated as gold or platinum on Proton database. 80%, that is huge, but this year the number goes even higher. 92%. 92% of the most important, the most interesting and highly anticipated PC games were playable on Linux since day one. And to get them working you don't really need to do anything. Nowadays it's all plug and play thanks to Proton compatibility layer that Valve baked into Steam client. It's worth mentioning that the fact that all those games were playable on Linux from day one doesn't mean that the experience was flawless. Like for example, I've encountered massive stutters and framerate drops on Linux in Dragon's Dogma 2, and more recent example, Indiana Jones, has some weird flickering happening from time to time. Like gaming on Linux is almost there, but not there yet. And even if the game has platinum rating on Proton database, it doesn't mean that everything is tip-top. Ghost of Tsushima's co-op mode isn't available on Linux because of some PlayStation Network nonsense. So you can't beat the game on Linux, but you can't achieve 100% completion and enjoy co-op with your friends. Don't get me wrong, gaming on Linux came a long way, and it's better than ever. But I wish I could say that the gaming experience on Linux is as good as on Windows. I wish I could, but it isn't. There are many tiny little obstacles and minor inconveniences here and there that can ruin the flow. I can get literally perfect in-game performance, but as soon as I open some third-party overlay, like the one that comes with Ubisoft Connect, everything turns into a stutterfest. Chances are high that my experience might not be universal. Vast majority of Linux gamers have AMD graphics card. I don't. I built my PC around Nvidia GPU. A lot of Linux enthusiasts have already switched to Wayland. Me on the other hand, I still use X11. My main desktop environment is GNOME and I don't stream video games at all. So I've decided to invite someone special who has completely different setup to provide completely different viewpoint and share his thoughts on the current state of gaming on Linux. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, Brodie Robertson.
Certified AMD user and Wayland enjoyer here. Whilst you may see me stream using a PS5 controller quite often, almost all my gaming is done on this Linux system, and I've been gaming on Linux for about at least 4 or so years now, and honestly, my experience has been absolutely great. I've heard some people say, oh, if you go from X11 over to Wayland, you're going to see some additional issues, but at least from my perspective, granted, I am running a full AMD system, I didn't notice any additional problems. As for the games I play, I'm mostly a single player or multiplayer optional game enjoyer. Over the past year, I've been playing a lot, probably too much, of Monster Hunter World. That game, flawless. No issue whatsoever. You want to play single player, you want to play multiplayer, no issue at all. On stream right now, I'm playing through Black Myth Wukong. No issues at all. Perfect. I'm also playing through Kingdom Hearts 3. Literally zero issues. Not even trying to like mess around with different versions of Proton or trying out the glorious egg roll version. No, I just click play and the games just work. I remember when even on AMD you would have to go and configure some minor little things here and there. At least for most games I'm playing now, it's just click play and it works. Now, to be fair, you do have to wait quite a bit of time to compile your Vulkan shaders, but that's going to happen whether on AMD or Nvidia or Intel. The Vulkan shader thing is that's just a part of Linux gaming and will get better as you buy a faster and faster system, and hopefully something can be done in the future to deal with that issue. It's just a minor inconvenience. Now, the main multiplayer game I play is Path of Exile, and now Path of Exile 2 thanks to it being in early access, and this is one of those games which does not have any anti-cheat. They have good moderation, and if people are cheating, they go and deal with them. As such, the game just works. Totally fine. And PoE is one of those games where a lot of the additional community tooling, things like Awaken PoE Trade, Path of Building, also have Linux builds as well. Now, this is not the case for a lot of other games, so your mileage may vary, but if you want one that works well on Linux, Path of Exile has a great community. One thing I've seen a lot of people get confused is DRM and anti-cheat. Most DRM systems work perfectly fine on Linux. It can cause issues if a game has different issues, because then the DRM is going to trip, because as you try to change different Proton versions, it's going to think you're trying to run it on different systems, and people technically get banned from single-player games. This happened with Persona 5, Royal, and Strikers, but once the game is working, then you're all good to go. The anti-cheat situation is a lot more annoying though, because a lot of AAA games, they use anti-cheat systems which do work on Linux, but they don't enable Linux support. So you're basically just stuck there and you can't really do anything. My recommendation though is, before you buy a game, before you try to play something, go to a forum, look up the game, and you're gonna find someone who tries to test it, and they'll let you know if it works. If it doesn't, that'll save you some money. If you want a game that you can go and play though, I would highly recommend having a look at Marvel Rivals. That game came out recently, and the NetEase anti-cheat system works perfectly fine on Linux. They've got Linux support there, and I've had zero issues with the game. Also, the game is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. Now, when it comes to streaming, OBS, perfect. I literally cannot complain about OBS. Now, on Wayland, if you're going to be capturing your desktop, you will need to make sure you have your desktop portal set up, but if you're using something like KDE or GNOME, or Cosmic for that matter, it pretty much just works out of the box. If we're talking about like a Hyperland or Sway, something based on WRoots or WRoots adjacent, you will need to go and do that stuff manually yourself, and it can be a little bit finicky. I've had some issues with the portals over on that side, but on the major desktops, you just set it up, you click the things, and the things just do the things. Now, I want to make it clear that my situation might be this perfect culmination of software and hardware choices, because I've heard some other people with additional issues, but at least for me, works on my system.
Speaking of perfect culmination, after years and years of steady growth, Linux became something that you can actually recommend to your friend as an alternative to Windows. It's not perfect, but it's way better now than it was 4 or 5 years ago. Nowadays you can grab a Steam Deck and have zero issues whatsoever, at least while diving into verified and playable zone. But one thing that Linux community didn't figure out yet is anti-cheat support, which actually shaped the landscape of gaming on Linux in quite an unexpected way. Let's play a game. Take a look at these 10 popular video games. Which two important things they share in common, aside from the fact that all of them are available on PC? Well, first of all, they don't really work on Linux. Second of all, get ready, they had generated more than 50% of all PlayStation Store revenue in 2023. And at least 6 of them currently deploys with anti-cheat systems that are not configured to support Linux. 50% of all revenue, let that sink in. What it means is that big publishers, the most greediest companies who make extremely successful live service games and design ludicrous monetization schemes, they don't see Linux as a viable platform. And in the meantime, hundreds of small studios and indie developers are trying their best to make sure that their games work perfectly on Steam Deck. So, if you're someone who's tired of modern AAA sludge and just want to live a peaceful life, beating only single-player games, Linux in general and Steam Deck in particular might be the perfect option for you. But if you enjoy playing online shooters, well, the list is going to be extremely short. Like we have the finals, we have Battlefield 4 and Overwatch, and of course CS2. But no Apex Legends, no Warzone, no GTA Online, and no Battlefield 1. At least not anymore. Overall, 2024 was a decent year for the gaming on Linux. It didn't become the year of Linux desktop and we still have a long way ahead, but I am extremely excited for what the future holds for our wonderful community. This was Reluctant Anarchist, and this time I actually have something else to say. I wanna say thanks to all of you. Thank you for your support, thank you for your wonderful comments, and especially thanks to everyone who joined my Telegram channel. I think this is going to be my last video before holidays, but next year I'll be ready to burst fire even more videos and YouTube shorts for you guys. Stay safe, stay strong, and get ready for some new exciting tech videos about Linux. No matter what culture do you belong to, allow me to wish you Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays. Until next time, farewell.